Let's take a breath together. We're talking about singing our song. Adam sang his song this morning. Yes. How many people have been singing your song? How many people are thinking about singing your song? How many people are willing to sing your song? How many are still discovering what your song is? That's what's really wonderful, because it's a discovery process. We don't just sing it one time. It's a discovery process as we just keep going in that process of becoming that I was talking about last week. As we continue to become, then we continue to discover our song more and more and more, and we open up and just allow it to reveal itself to and through and as each one of us as our very lives. So our theme this month is Spirit says to sing your song. And Spirit wants us to sing that song that was imprinted in us from the very beginning, from before the beginning, since before we were ever thought about. That song, the song of God, Spirit's song, was already imprinted within each of us. And so when we get here and we start going through this thing called life, it sort of gets covered over, and we can lose sight of our song. We lose sight of who we are, because our song really is who we are. Our song is who we are. Our song is who we are. It's all that God wants to be in and through and as our lives. It is the way we live our lives. It is our own special sauce. It is our own uniqueness, our own individuality. And the way we sing, the way we live our lives is the way we sing our song. And the way we sing our song is the way we live our lives. There's no separation. It's all the same. And so I encourage you, as we have been going, I have been encouraging you as we go through this month, to really open up and allow your song to reveal itself. Allow your song to sing you, because it will happen. When it's really finding an opening and a way to be expressed, it will sing you. And as your song sings you, it heals you. And as it heals us, it helps us to release the old stories. It helps us to release the old beliefs. It helps us to release the old patterns, the old habits, all the old stuff that somebody told us, or false beliefs that we have, and all that stuff can get released when we can just open up and allow our songs to just flow in and through and as our lives. Because you see, as our songs flow through us, God is flowing through us. That power and that presence of God is flowing unhampered, unhindered, unencumbered in any way through each of us. And we get to live out loud, and that's what I've been saying all month. I want us to live out loud. I want us to live the life that we were intended to live the life that we were created to live. And we do that, the more we get in touch with that power and that presence within us, the more we open to it, the more we allow, the more we move into that place of the flow, the more we can release anything that would hinder, as I said, and allow the flow to happen in and through and as our very lives. That's when we're singing our song. That's when we're singing our song. That's when we're singing our song. So when you want to know, what is my song? What is it that you really, really, really love doing? What is it that you really, really, really love being? That's your song. It's as simple as that. What is it that you really love doing? What is it that speaks to your heart? What is it, as I said last week, that makes you come alive? That's your song. What is it that makes you really jump out of bed in the mornings? Well, maybe not jump, but makes you really want to get up in the mornings or at some point during the day. I don't want to push it here. It makes you want to get up at some point during the day. But you know what? The more you start to sing your song, the more you start to allow that song to sing you, the more you're willing and ready to be up and out and about the business of life, of living. That's how the song affects us. When we're singing, we're ready to go. We're ready to see what's out there. We're ready to be open. We're ready to do it. We're ready to meet the day. And yes, there may be challenges that we have. We all have challenges. That's our lives consist of light and darkness. Our song keeps us headed toward the light. our song keeps us headed toward the light. And when we are not singing our songs, when we don't know what it is, when we're not discovering our songs, when we're not walking in the direction of our songs, the darkness is more visible to us than the light. And so what we want to do is to keep being open to that song, keep moving forward regardless of the challenges, keep moving forward regardless of the obstacles, keep moving forward regardless of as to whatever is going on. Because when we're singing our songs, we are in that place of alignment with God. We're in that place of alignment with the all that is. And when we're in that place of alignment, then no matter what comes up, we don't have to struggle. No matter what comes up, we know God's got this. I may not know how, but I trust that God's got this. Whatever this may be, whatever name we may give it, God's got this. And so when we know that, we can just take a deep breath. And I invite you to do that now. We can take a deep breath and just allow God to show up in our lives as God. Allow God to be God in our lives as our lives. Allow God to have full sway in our lives, because this is God's life that God wants to live in and through and as each one of us according to our own uniqueness. According to our own uniqueness. And so when we can open up and say, yes, God, have thine own way, then all kinds of things begin to happen in our lives. All kinds of things begin to happen that we didn't even know were going to happen, that we didn't even know we could do, that we didn't even know we could be, that we didn't even know we wanted to be, whatever that may be. Things just begin to unfold most divinely and most perfectly. And so this week we're talking about singing your song. And I'm inviting you to sing your song. I've been saying that all month. And now I'm saying, sing your song. Sing your song. And in singing your song, three things come to mind. One of them is to really be mindful of the environment in which you find yourself. Be mindful of the environment in which you find yourself. An environment includes people, places, and things. Be mindful of the people, places, and things that we involve ourselves with. Be mindful of the environments in which we spend our time, because our environments can be ones in which we thrive or in which we wither. Our environments can be one in which we thrive or in which we wither. We want to be in an environment in which we are thriving, in which we are growing, in which we are expanding, in which we are being all that we can be, in which there's so much possibility. And we have to do that sometimes by letting go of people that we hang out with, people that we talk to a lot, letting go of places that we find ourselves going or hanging out in, letting go of situations and circumstances that we find ourselves involved in, letting go of things that we really like a lot. But we know that's not the best environment for us to be in. That's not the way for us to really live the life that we want to live the life that we love living. And so being willing to control your environment, to really pay attention to what your environment's like. And you know, what happens is when we surround ourselves with family and friends and people who really know us, people who really love us, it really, really helps. Especially when drastic changes take place in our lives. Because you know, those people who love us, those people who really care about us, our families, our friends, our loved ones, they know our song. And you know what? When we forget our song, they'll sing it to us. They'll sing it to us to help us remember who we are. I remember the second time I moved to California from Ohio. I moved from Cleveland to Santa Cruz. The first time I moved to California from Ohio, I moved from Cleveland to Cincinnati to LA. That was a head spinner to move from Cincinnati to LA. That's kind of like, what's that movie where the head spins around? The Exorcist. Moving from Cincinnati to LA can be a head spinner. But at least when I moved there, That was many years ago. When I moved there, my daughter was with me. So I had family with me. I had her with me. I didn't know anybody, but it was okay because we had each other, and we adjusted to being in California, and that led me to Agape, and the rest is history. And then I moved back to Ohio. And then I moved back to stay 1 year. And then 10 years later, I left. And when I moved to California the next time, I moved from Cleveland to Santa Cruz. And that time I moved by myself. And that was a drastic change for me, moving from Cleveland to Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz, when I had decided that I was going to leave the practice of law and go into ministry full time. This was what I was really called to do. And so I did it the way I usually do things. I just decided, okay, I'm going to move. And so I moved. And I left my daughter and family, everybody in Ohio, and decided to move to Santa Cruz. I had a minister friend who had been my first practitioner many, many years ago. She had become the minister of the church in Santa Cruz some years before. And by that time, she had moved from Santa Cruz someplace else. But I called her and I said, I'm thinking about moving to Santa Cruz. What do you think about that? And she said, one thing I want you to understand is that Santa Cruz is not a place. It's a state of mind. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, I can't explain it to you. It's not a place. It's a state of mind. And once you get into the rhythm of it and into that state of mind, you'll be fine. But coming from Cleveland to Santa Cruz, it's a different animal altogether. So what does she know? So she moved from Cleveland to Santa Cruz, but at any rate, I went. And as I said, I went alone, and I knew one person there, two people there. And I had decided to go from practicing law into ministry full-time. I didn't know what that meant. And as it turned out, I went from being a prosecutor to being a hospice chaplain. That's another head spinner. It's really good work, but it's another head spinner because it's totally opposite of everything I knew. And so I had left my family behind. I had left my friends behind. I had left my life that I knew behind. I had made these drastic changes. And here I was in a stranger in a strange land. I was in this new place. And even though my life seemed to be going along fine, there were little things, little stumbles that I was making, little things that weren't fitting. And I was still going along okay. And my sister came to visit me after a few months, and she stayed with me for 2 weeks. And while she was there, I felt like I came home to myself because she knew my song. I had forgotten my song, but she knew my song, and she taught it to me. She sang it to me every day. Not by her words, not by anything but her beingness. Her beingness, her being there, our relationship reminded me of who I am. Our relationship, the things that we talked about, the way that we were with each other, was her way of singing my song to me and reminding me of what that song is. And so that's why I'm saying to you, we have to surround ourselves with people who know our song and who will sing it to us when we forget it. And that's what happened for me. I got back on track without even knowing that I had been off track. I wasn't consciously aware that I was off track. I wasn't consciously aware that I was floundering until just before she left, I had said to her, you know what? I'm so glad you came because you have reminded me of who I am. This is who I am. You reminded me of who I am. It was like she was a grounding force for me being there. We all have those. We all have those. There's somebody who knows your song. And I'm saying to you, surround yourself with people who know your song so that when you stumble, and we all do, when you stumble, that person can sing that song to you, can sing your song to you, and then you can stand on your own. And they sing it for you and hold a space for you, just like these practitioners who sit in High Watch do. They hold a space for us while we find our song. While we find our song, and that means when we come back into ourselves. And so that's what I'm inviting you to do. To seek out those people, to reconnect with those people who know your song so they can sing it to you. They can remind you of who you are. They can remind you of who you are. And sometimes it may not even be a person. It may be going to a place. It may be going to a place where you can remember who you are. A place that sings your song to you. A place that sings your song to you. We all have them. And so I invite you to connect with that environment in which you can thrive, because that's the environment that knows your song. And that's the environment that sings it to you each and every moment that you're in it. And those are the environments that we want to stay in, always, always. So let's just take a breath as we just remember staying within that environment in which we thrive, in which our song is forever seeking us out so that it can sing us. That's what we want to have happen. The second thing that I want to remind you to do in singing your song is to lift up your eyes. Psalm 121 says, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. Lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes. When we lift up our eyes, we're lifting up to possibilities. When we are in that place where we are constantly asking the question of ourselves, why didn't I? Why didn't I when I had the chance? Why didn't I? Why couldn't I? Think about it. When you're asking that kind of question, we're always looking down. You don't look up and say, why didn't I? We're looking down. When we're doing that, we're victimizing ourselves. We're victimizing ourselves. That's a victimization, an abuse statement. Why didn't I? What difference does it make? You can't do it now. Let your question be, why can't I? Why can't I? Why can't I makes us look up. Rarely do we look down and say, why can't I? Why didn't I makes us look down. Why can't I makes us look up. Why didn't I is abusive and victimizing. Why can't I is filled with possibility. Why can't I? Why can't I sing my song now? Maybe I didn't sing it back there. No point in asking why didn't I. Why can't I do it now? Why can't I have a different relationship now? Why can't I have a different career now? Why can't I have whatever it is I want? Why can't I be whatever it is I want? The question is, why can't I? Because it's filled with possibility. The why can't I is filled with possibility. And so I invite you to let that be your question. Why can't I? And when we ask that question, we are willing to be open and available to allow the all that is to be all that it wants to be in and through each one of us. We're willing to do something different. We're willing to start from where we are right here, right now. The lifting up our eyes requires us to do what is before us to do right now. And when we're doing what's before us to do right now, like you're doing right now, you're sitting here looking at me. That's what's before you right now. And you hear me say this all the time, do what is before you to do. Because now is the only time we have. This is the eternal moment. I don't care what moment we find ourselves in. I don't care whether it was 50 years ago or 50 years ahead. It's still going to be now. There's an eternal moment. That moment is now. Do what is before you to do now, right now. And what that does, it keeps us right here focused in the present. It keeps us right here focused in this moment. It keeps us from going back to the why didn't I? And it keeps us looking at why can't I? Because now is filled with possibilities. Now is filled with possibilities. Back there is not filled with possibilities. That's over. That's done with. Right here is filled with possibilities. Right now is filled with possibilities. Because right now is the only time you can change whatever it is that you need to change. So right now is the time you want to sing your song. The only time you can sing it is right now. And so I invite you I invite you to stay in the moment and do what is before you to do. And you know the other thing you have to do when you're lifting up your eyes is pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. Let's take a breath. Pray without ceasing. That means that your life is a prayer. Your life is a constant prayer. Ernest Holmes says, to pray without ceasing means to never doubt, to trust that, trust in the affirmative power of the all good. He says, to pray without ceasing means to never doubt, but to trust in the affirmative power of the all good. It means to constantly recognize our relationship with that presence within us, that presence within which we live and move and have our being. He said it's our constant recognition. When we pray without ceasing, it is our constant recognition of that presence in which we live and move and have our being. And that presence within which we live and move and have our being lives and moves and has its being in each one of us. No separation. No separation. So when we lift up our eyes to the possibilities, we're right in alignment with the all that is. We lift up our eyes and say, why can't I? God can. That means, oh well, let's see if God can do that through me. That's how we sing our song, by lifting up our eyes. The third thing that I want you to remember in singing your song, I call dissel. Dissel. D-S-L-L. Letting God be God in your life. D-S-L-L. Dance like there's no one watching. Sing like no one can hear you. Love like you've never been hurt. Live like it's heaven on earth. That's DSLL. That my acronym for that is DISSEL. So I wanted you to remember that. You'll remember DISSEL. DISSEL. You know, when I was preparing to come here this morning, I as I told you before, I will turn the TV on in the morning just before I leave home, just to see what to pray for on my way, just being aware of what's going on. And I'm always so happy when there's nothing, except the usual stuff, but nothing unusual. But this morning when I turned the TV on, CBS this morning was on, and there was a reporter who was talking about the fact that he loved skateboarding. And he had skateboarded, but he hadn't skateboarded in a number of years, and he was 42 years old. And he really wanted a skateboard, and I don't know whether he said he was embarrassed to go and buy one for himself or whatever, but his wife bought one for him. And so for his birthday. So he started to skateboard again. And one day he was skateboarding down the road, and he passed some kids who were skateboarding, and they looked at him kind of strangely because he was feeling like he was 12 years old. And all of a sudden, when he saw these kids watching him skateboard, he became just a little bit ashamed and a little bit feeling like knowing that he really was 42 instead of being 12 or 15 or whatever. And so he kind of took his skateboard back home and decided he wouldn't do it anymore. And he had the opportunity to interview the champion skateboarder. Is it John Hannock or? No, that's not the name. It's another name. Anyway, champion. He interviewed a champion skateboarder. And he found out that this person was 8 years older than he was. And he talked to him about how he didn't, the reporter talked to the champion about how he had been not feeling like he could skateboard any longer because he was 42 years old and had gotten too old, and he see the kids on the street and he was sort of embarrassed and whatever, and the champion's looking at him going, what? No, you skate as long as you want to. You never get too old. You do it as long as you want to do it. Because that's what speaks to your heart. That's what makes you come alive. And so he just felt so relieved to know that this champion was 8 years older than he was. He's just 42. So he could go and start skateboarding again. So he pulled his skateboard out and he started skateboarding again. And when he passed the kids on the corner, he just passed them right by and just allowed himself to just fly with it, because that's what he wanted to do. That's what brought joy to his life. That's what brought joy to his heart. That's how you sing your song. That's how you sing your song. You don't go with, why didn't I? You don't go with, it's too late now. You don't go with, oh no, I can't. You go with, why can't I? So he bought a skateboard and he's going, why can't I skateboard? At 42, at 52, at 62, however, whatever. So I'm saying to you, why can't you skateboard? Why can't you sing? Why can't you dance? Why can't you? So when we move into that place, that's when we distle. That's when we distle. That's when we dance like nobody's watching. Dance like nobody's watching, like Rick dances up and down this aisle. We sing like nobody's listening. You know, if you're in the house by yourself, you just sing as loud as you want to, out of tune, whatever. But like nobody's listening, you're free. You love like you've never been hurt. You love like you've never been hurt. You let go of the past and what happened back in that relationship. But now you love like you've never been hurt. And you live like it's heaven on earth. Because it is heaven on earth. Everywhere we are is heaven. It's up to us. The ground upon which we stand is holy ground everywhere we are, everywhere we go. So long as we know our relationship with the all that is, so long as we know our relationship with the allness and the fullness of God, so long as we know that we are made in the image and likeness and out of God, so long as we know that we can never be separate from that. When we know this truth, when we align ourselves with the all that is, when we are in alignment, we're in heaven. That's heaven on earth. And so I invite you to distle. Let God be God in your life. Dance like nobody's watching. Sing like nobody can hear you. Love like you've never been hurt. And live like it's heaven on earth. Let's turn within as we take a breath. Just taking a breath here and now in this moment, knowing and sensing and feeling that presence of God that is within us right here, right now. Knowing that this presence of God lives and moves and has its being in each one of us, and we live and move and have our being in it, that there can be no separation between God and me. Knowing that there's only one power, there's only one presence, there's only one life, there's only one mind, there's only one activity. There's only one, that one I choose to call God. That one is my life, that one is the life of each of us here this day. Let's breathe into that one. Let's feel the presence of that one right where we are right now, deep within us. That one is our song. We connect with it consciously. And as we do, all things are made new. And it is from this place of awareness, this place of connection, this place of onlyness, this place of oneness that I speak this word for each of us this day. I know that we each have a song to sing, and we each let go of the obstacles and the blocks and the apparent limitations of fear and judgment and blame and shame and doubt and anxiety and anger, all that stuff. We let all that go. And as we do, we open our hearts, we open our minds, we open our entire being to allow God to be God in and through and as our lives. And as we do this, everything is made new. Everything is healed within us. I speak a word of healing for each of us this day, healing in our body temples, knowing that every organ, cell, tissue, function of our bodies is responding to that radiant healing presence of God. When we sing our songs, this healing is happening. Healing in our bodies of affairs, healing in our finances, our relationships, healing in every aspect of our lives. As I open this circle of prayer, I pause momentarily so that you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may speak them silently or loud, and you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names are spoken here this day, I'm just knowing that God is right where each of them is, blessing and keeping them. This prayer goes out to anyone on this planet needing a prayer this day. There's healing happening everywhere, despite appearances to the contrary. For God is in the midst of every situation and circumstance. God is in the midst of everything going on. We look to that everywhere presence of God right here and right now. I give great, great thanks for the healing that's happening in every life, every person here, everybody here right now. I give great thanks for the awareness that we have of the healing that is happening, that is available to us, and we open to it and say, yes, 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 God, thank you. Thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, Infinite Presence. Thank you, Divine Mother. I know that all is well, for I know that all is God. I just allow it to be now. I accept that it is so, and so it is.